As INFJs, if we create an environment for the people around us to actually bring out all of their energy and all that they are, we very often are able to see their essence, as in what is the archetype that they're actually meant to be, that this is just ingrained in them. And it's like, I look at somebody's eyes and I see, okay, your eyes are green. Like, why are you telling me your eyes are brown? Like, I see it. That's how it is for us with archetypes. We do this in bootcamp all the time when we really talk about what are the archetypes from like that spiritual perspective, because for us, these things are completely obvious. And once you allow a person to actually show you their energy, we see this right away. And I love how C.J. Joseph actually said this in one of his videos. He said, the INFJ's best export in life is creating better humans, meaning we burn away the lies. But in order to do that, we have to see a person. We have to see what they're about and to really see what their archetype is. And I've seen this with intellectuals. I see this with caregivers. I've seen this with soldiers. Like, I've seen it all around. And we all thrive the best if we embody who we're meant to be. So today I want to talk to you about 5 reasons why the INFJ is the original kingmaker and why people are energetically drawn to us. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the free poster on INFJ Mastery. And if you want to take it to the next level, then either get one of my products or work with me one-on-one. Everything you need to know, you can find through the links in the description. Reason number 1, your power as an INFJ is not loud, it's energetic. We don't ever have to shout. You will never see an INFJ actually come into power, come into being respected by being very loud, by being very outgoing and telling everybody what we're about and that they should listen to us. That's not what we do, and we know that's not where true power comes from. Our best and most potent power comes from us being in alignment, because then our presence speaks louder than anything external ever could. It's our energy, it's our clarity, it's how we move through life. And it's these qualities that make people change. Maybe not right away, but there is an undercurrent of something going on and people know this is real. So often people don't believe that we're real, but if we hold on to that, people will come back to that because we have the ability to embody who we are. We can be in alignment, and we can do this without external confirmation or any kind of feedback. We can do this because we can get in touch with our unconscious. We can really get in touch with who we're meant to be. And when you do this, you automatically are inviting people to tap into their alignment as well. So I can give you some examples when it comes to archetypes. Like, I've always seen myself as a priestess warrior. Like, I've never been a queen. I've never been a caretaker. I've never been a soldier. I've always been a priestess warrior. This is what my fantasy plays were all about when I was a kid. This is what feels most natural to me. This is how I see myself. I've told you this before in bootcamp when we talk about purpose. This is like one of the main things when we really get into it, that first we have to look at all those archetypes and see which one fits me best. What do I really recognize myself in? Because once you actually admit that to yourself, you can really move to the next level. So once I understood I'm never going to be the typical caregiver, I also understood I'm not going to be palatable. Like, I'm always going to be different, and I'm going to be a warrior, and I'm going to be like the priestess archetype. That's what I feel the best in, and that's what I want people to accept me with. All the choices fall off. And when we embody the energy that we're most comfortable in, we're automatically inviting others to tap into that as well. And so that's the kind of force that people are drawn to when you really live in this, because this is not something you announce. This is not something you play out. This is who you are. And people either are drawn to that or they're repelled and go their own way. Reason number 2, we magnetize leaders who need our frequency. So when I'm talking about leaders, I'm just talking about it from the perspective of the kingmaker, right? We're talking about the archetype of a king, of a leader. But I've seen this with artists. I've seen this with intellectuals. Like, I've seen it all around. And I've not only seen this through the people in my life, I've seen this, with so many INFJs that I've worked with over the years, how they not only embody this, but they also evoke this in others. And I can give you an example of my best friend who's an INFP. And in college, when I wasn't really embodying myself and I was pretty much creating a container for her so she can thrive, it was because I wanted to feel her energy. Like, she is such an amazing artist. And every single time I was in her environment and I sort of created this environment where she felt safe to really bring all of that out, I was high pretty much. I was just in that space looking around thinking I'm in a fantasy world. She paints a lot. She did a lot of decorating. So her archetype is an artist through and through. There is no in between. That's who she is. But in a world where this is not really valued, you're not really bringing that out by yourself. And this is where we come in. This is something that we see we're able. This is like, how I always say, our superpower. We can make this happen. It's not like I'm creating the artist in her, but I know that because I'm there and because I'm creating an environment, she can actually thrive and feel safe to do that. And if you really think about it, this is one of our superpowers. This is something that we just love to do, and we're not getting credit for it. It's not like anybody knows that this is happening partially because we are creating a frequency around it, because we're creating a space around it. But we know it. We know that that person feels like they can bring all of that out because I'm holding a frequency. And, that's just a wonderful thing. And when you know you're doing something and it's bringing value, like all together, like that gives you something that nothing else can compensate. And that's what I mean with we magnetize leaders who need our frequency. We can embody through our intuitive insight, through our energy, through the calibration that we just bring naturally, we sort of guide people to finding that place within them. We become the tuning fork, we become the lighthouse that people can sort of arrange themselves around. And every single time you see that and you see that magic is happening, you know it's happening because it's a mathematical equation. Like this isn't some voodoo thing or that you're hypnotizing somebody or it's some esoteric thing. It's just that's the essence of that person. So why pretend it's something else? Like how I always say, like, I see that you have green eyes. Why are we pretending you have brown eyes? Like it's obvious. Like what's the big deal? It's a big deal for other people because very often they're not tapping into this because it's first off not that easy. Second of all, there's a lot of unworthiness that all of us are carrying. Like, if you really think about it from like what's an utopian world and an ideal world and then the world we're living in, the world we're living in is not working because people are not in alignment with themselves. Like that's just it. And so if you really would think about it from the perspective of what's an ideal world, everybody would be able to be in that essence all the time. But again, we as INFJs, we have to learn that there's an ideal and then there's reality. And we have to sort of start with reality before we can lean into and really guide, humanity in that direction. Reason number 3, we build empires that we don't need to rule. So this is something that a lot of people don't understand. I would say mostly everybody who isn't an INFJ isn't going to get it because there aren't people who are doing this. This is just us. And that's why we understand it so well, because we don't want any part of that. Like when I see, for example, I was with my best friend in college, and when I saw all of that art, the thing I wanted most in that was actually to just kind of like live in it and enjoy her art. I would never take credit for it. I would never feel entitled to that art. But the fact that I contributed is already giving me a big sense of satisfaction and of fulfillment. And this is something we just have to be honest with ourselves is going to be hugely misinterpreted. Like I have seen this, for example, with my best friend, but I've seen it with other people as well. People don't understand this. If you are saying, oh, I'm just here and I want to see you win and I don't want anything out of it, it's just not the norm. And so people are going to question it. People are going to have a problem with it, and they will have it if there's some kind of codependency in it. And this is where we have to actually become the better version of ourselves, because there are 2 ways of doing this, right? There's this one way where I said how I did it in college, which was I was dimming my light. I was adapting my energy to hers so I could create a container for her and create an environment where she could thrive, where she would be safe. I would take the blows. If people were acting around her in a way that wasn't very responsible, like I was the one who's taking care so she could just freely be in her creative and intuitive, world. And so like I really took on that role. And the problem with this is there is a codependency there. This is something that is only happening because you're sustaining it. This is not only happening from a place of complete altruism. Like we just have to be honest with ourselves, because we in that moment are really giving up on ourselves. Like you can really bring this out in others, but what we have to learn is that there's a step in between, because otherwise it's just not a sustainable system. So in this situation, there's always this notion of I'm giving something up in order for you to shine. And so there is some kind of thing of, look, I'm putting so much into this relationship. That's why we as INFJs say we have those relationships where we're putting 70% in and getting 30% back. And there's always some kind of underlying current of, this is not right. And I expect you to respect me. I expect you to accept me, to feel like that this is something which I'm doing for you, right? And so relationships like this, they always are very volatile. Like my best friend and me, like it took us a long time to get to a place where everything was okay because of this dynamic, because she was not treating me right, because like I was all in her energy, and she was not treating me right because she thought like I still, didn't do this out of like really altruistic motives. And so it's like this whole thing that just isn't sustainable, and it isn't clean. Like it's just not clean energy. And if you want to create something that's sustainable, it has to start with us. So I'm not the artist. I'm not the one who creates these amazing paintings. I'm not the one who creates this amazing environment. Like that's her. And I'm not the one creating her empire. But if I'm able to create an architecture, a scene, an energy, like a frequency that I can hold on to that invites other people to tap into theirs, then this is what we can do. This is what I mean with we create empires that we don't want to rule in. Like I get my satisfaction from being that person who's in my alignment and who can just see the people around me also feel like they have the right to embody who they are. And because of that, our world gets better one way or another. If it's a caretaker at a kindergarten, if it's an artist, if it's a leader, like, the king archetype, like that's a person who's going to rule their environment. Like I'm not like this. I never wanted to be a king or queen or whatever it is, but a person who's born for this, that's just what it is. And like, if you are not really choosing yourself, you automatically are putting yourself in a situation where the energy is just not clean. And what I mean with the energy is not clean is it will collapse at some point. If you're constantly depleting yourself in order to make another person shine or whatever it is, and you're not getting enough back. So the typical thing that I said, you have a relationship where you feel like you're putting 70% into them and you're only getting 30 back. It's just not sustainable. Like we just have to be honest with ourselves. And so we have to get away from this aspect of, okay, I'm, giving that person a fish, to let me be an example of what it means to be a fisherman so people can become the fishermen in their lives. That's sort of the thing, and what I've learned throughout the years, what we as INFJs have to embody. And when I first wrote the ebook, it was called Below the Radar, Above the System. So what we're doing is not visible to most people, but we're still above the system. We don't want to play by the system. And every single time a person is allowing themselves to embody who they are, they're also stepping out of the system. And so we have to be the blueprint, we have to be the anchor, we have to be the tuning fork, we have to be the lighthouse, we have to be the mountain that people climb up on. That's when we win the game. But it always has to start with us. It is always put the oxygen mask on you first, because if your energy is not really sustainable, if you're not creating an environment for yourself where you feel like, okay, the energy that I'm giving is the energy that is just overflowing of me, right? I'm so much in alignment. I've created like energy mastery for myself. By the way, if you want to learn this, get the course, The 10 Principles of INFJ Energy Mastery. Once you get in this energy mastery thing, then there's just excess energy, and that's the energy you can share with others. And that's how you can create something that is sustainable, where you yourself are really whole. You're not giving out of codependency. You're not giving out of any wounds or because you want any kind of feedback that you're whole or a good person or whatever it is. And then through that, you actually become this blueprint of what it means to choose yourself. That's how you see those empires around you just, blossom. Number 4, your energetic standards train people. So this is super important from the aspect of, remember, people learn from who you are. They don't learn from what you say to them. They don't learn from what you show them. They learn from who you are. And so if we have learned and trained ourselves to create really strong boundaries on our energy, meaning we're not doing things out of people pleasing, we're not doing things because we want love, we're not doing things because we want acceptance, we're doing things because this is the truth. This is the clarity that we see. This is how we see the world. And when we stick to that, we're not only teaching our nervous system to maintain this, we're automatically teaching the people around us. So this is the typical thing. For example, when I was studying in university, and I never liked to study. Like I probably learned how to study in university because up until then, I kind of got through without studying. I always went to the library because when I'm in the library, everybody's studying. And when I'm in that environment, I'm much more likely to study. When I was home, I probably did something else. And so it's that kind of strategy that is going to get us the furthest. And it is really about our nervous system, because you see so many people who self-sabotage on so many levels, and it's not like a conscious choice. It's really our nervous system going and doing things because it is too scary to be in our body and be exactly who we are. And as INFJs, being in our body, it's probably the hardest in some way, because, SE is our last function, and SI, even more, like really embodying that. But because it can be so hard, if we're the most disciplined in that, we actually are going to maintain it the most, because we know I cannot do this halfway. Like, I have to do this the right way. And when you train yourself, it becomes second nature. You're not questioning it. It's your home base. It's what you need in order to continuously create more energy for yourself. In bootcamp, we talk about this in Pillar 1, physical energy management. So it's really about embodying this. And through that, you become the library, so to say. And then people want to learn who they are and really practice that. They just come to your library. They are in your vicinity. They are close to your energy, because that in itself just helps them to get in that mode as well. And that does not mean that they're going to turn into us. No, not at all. It's in that example, the king. It's in that example, the artist. It's in that essence, the intellectual. Like, whoever you know is actually you, that's the version of you that will come out. And the more you embody who you are with everything that you are, with all your shame, your grief, your grandiosity, with all of those aspects of yours that you've made room for, you're automatically allowing others to do the same, while still maintaining the boundary of, this is moral behavior from my perspective, this is acting out of integrity, and this is truth. This isn't an illusion. This is what actually is. And point number 5 is, you don't save the king, you fortune. So this is probably the lesson of my life's work, because I have just seen what I've been able to do for other people and what I have been able to bring out in them. But if I save them, what I did was, how I told you the example with my best friend was, I was neglecting myself in order to create an environment where they could bring out who they actually are. And first off, it's not sustainable. There's codependency in this whole thing. Then the people, if they have not learned to discipline themselves, and if they haven't learned how to train their nervous system to actually be okay with them being by themselves, they're going to self-sabotage in one way or another. I said this in one of the last videos. If a person's benchmark of how well they feel about themselves is at a 3 out of a 10, and then you come along and let's say you're 5, and then you create an environment for them to actually thrive. So you put yourself at the 3 so they can actually get your energy and rise. It just doesn't work. Like, if people are used to being at a 3, even if they have the energy for a 5, they're going to do self-sabotaging things to get back to a 3. Like, you have to train your nervous system to be okay with feeling good about oneself. And I had to learn this as well. Like, when I started my whole journey, I had to learn, what do I have to do and who do I have to become in order to feel good about myself without having any external validation that this is worthy, right? So you train your nervous system what this is, how to do this. And if you really want to learn this more in detail, as I said, the 10 principles on INFJ energy mastery will really help you with this. With that in the background, you actually become just this energy system that is whole and complete and that isn't leaking. Like, you don't need any validation that you're a good person or that you're worthy. Like, you got this. And through that, you actually, forge the king. Because when somebody who has that archetype in them sees that and is able and willing to stand in that truth, it just automatically makes them align to that. And I've seen this whole thing with my best friend, for example, because as I said, in college, it was like, I neglected myself. I made that space for her. She blossomed. And then we sort of went our separate ways in a way of she started living with her now husband. I was doing my own stuff over here. And with that, a lot of that energy and this artistic side of her really wasn't available anymore, because she needed so much of her energy to really maintain her boundaries and to make sure she was okay. And as much as it hurt me that I couldn't provide that for her anymore, I still knew I have to focus on me. That was something that I felt bad about. It was something that I also felt was missing from my life, that I didn't have access to that extent. But now that I'm getting more and more in this complete alignment with myself, I see how this is coming back out again. Because now I have so much energy that's overflowing, so I can still create and share my joy for everything that she does. And I see how it starts coming out again. And it's coming out not because I'm doing it. I'm not doing anything for her. I'm not giving up on myself. I'm not making compromises. What I'm saying is, look, this is what it looks like when you're winning in life, in a sense of I'm in integrity, I'm in alignment, I'm happy with what I'm doing, I'm happy with the person I'm becoming. And when people are around you and they can handle it, because a lot of people, can't really handle it. Like some people don't see it. And I have people in my very close environment that don't see it. Like they don't think there's anything of that ability in me. They just don't see it. That's how it is. But for her, who's an INFP, of course, there's a lot of, energetic exchange, and you just see it. You just see how people start blossoming again because you are now relaxed. You can radiate like energy. And it's just, as I said, a tuning fork, something that people can align themselves around. So imagine yourself as the architect of a space. Imagine yourself as like the library. And every single time people come into your library, they can become more of who they are. But this only works in a sustainable way if you first make sure that your library, that your architecture is solid. So we're not saving anybody for several reasons. First off, you can't save anybody. Like just get this out of your head that just because you're an INFJ and you can do this for a while, it's not sustainable, right? People can only save themselves. You can be an example of what it means to save yourself, to be in integrity, to be in alignment with who you are. And through that, you're actually making it easier for people to align to who they really are. And that's what I mean with INFJs are the kingmakers. So let's embrace this aspect of ours, see this as one more thing, enjoy the entire process. And let's be honest with ourselves, with just INFJs here, nobody knows, nobody cares, but we know it. And that's what gives you like the biggest kick. Like I know that I contributed to that. And so, that's a good feeling. So that's just a nice add-on to everything that we do. Okay, remember, if you want to take it to the next level, first, check out the free posters. You can work with me one-on-one, check out the courses, everything you can find through the links in the description. I think you can also like do it now through YouTube, like at least my products. So everything you need, you can find through the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one.